Okay, Shabbat Shalom from the east. I'm pretty sure that you can hear me. And if you can't hear me, then I guess I'm recording it. So one or the other way, you will hear me. Baruch Hashem Yahweh, another end to the week and beginning of the Sabbath. A lot of things have happened since last week, but one of the key things that happened, as you may have heard, there was a peace accord signed between Israel and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. They signed an accord, a deal, a treaty called the Abrahamic-Faith Accord. Now, isn't that interesting? Abraham Accord. So, this is, I think, really good because the two nations will now do business together economically. They can, of course, share embassy space, do all sorts of business deals, and other nations are to follow. This is just one of the first nations, Islamic nations, Muslim nations, they have agreed. Other nations are also asked to follow. Of course, there's going to be, two sides to the story. A lot of people are going to come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories. But essentially, this thing hasn't happened for I guess 73 years since the formation of Israel. No Arab state has accepted it before, but now it's the first time that they've accepted it, and so more. I personally believe that more will follow. Isn't it interesting that I'm in the East and we have an accord, peace treaty? Remember, the Kohanim are famous for two things: one, peace; two, war. So those two things we are famous for. We have, China. And we have China on one side gathering on the border of India over here in the Ladakh Valley, and we have a peace accord on the other side with other countries to follow. I guess Saudi Arabia already does business with Israel secretively, but more than likely they will be doing it openly in not too distant future. So that's where we are over here in the scheme of things. It was the Independence Day over here, my goodness, yesterday. And today is the Independence Day for India. So both countries will be celebrating. I guess yesterday Pakistan was celebrating, today India is celebrating. And, after 74 years, this is 74 years of independence for this country. I guess a lot has to be done yet. A lot needs to be done. I would probably say both ends, a lot needs to be done before really they will see good future for their people. But it's a start. There's always a start, and I believe that Pakistan is going to receive an incredible blessing this time round, and it will continue from there on. I do hear formally that in the UK it's a formal recession, and the UK people can confirm it. I will be coming to the UK. Probably I'm looking to visit the UK in October, early October. I do intend to visit it, even if it's a short period of time. I do intend to go there. I'm just waiting for a date from my sister. Today for that, Yaqub, and I definitely my hearty desire is that we have peace between the nations over here, Pakistan, India, China, Russia, Afghanistan, Kashmir, and all these different nations around about. There should be peace in this region, because if there's peace over here, then there will be, it will be better for everybody, put it this way. Because Israel is kind of involved in this side as well, because Israel is selling weapons to India, selling drones and other things and missiles and stuff. So kind of Israel is involved in this side of the world. But as it happens, whenever a nation is fearing war, they accumulate bombs, missiles, planes. So India's been busy buying planes from France, so France is getting business. I guess US will get some business. Israel is getting business. So it's really for a lot of nations, rumors of war, whether a war happens or not, but rumors of war can mean lots of business activity. And a lot of the times, rumors of war is just about that. A lot of business. It's about selling weapons, generating economies, and so on and so forth. But that's the way the world works, really, as we've seen. Now, I wanted to talk to you. I remember last week I did ask some people here in the room, some family. I asked them if they tried the 33-3. So you write a affirmation 33 times for 3 days. I don't know if anybody attempted it. Did anybody attempt that particular exercise, or did that just go in the wayside? Okay, so one person did. Great. At least 2 people did, and 3. That's great, including me. That'd be 4. So having said that, what I would also ask you to do is, generally there will be 3 days of gap. I wouldn't take a 3 days gap. What I would do is take a week's gap. That's the way I would do it. You do it for 3 days, 33 times, an affirmation that you're desiring to bring into your life. It could be a car, it could be, you're looking for a home, or maybe even a chunk of money. So what you do is you write it 33 times a day for 3 days. Take a break of 7 days, 1 week. Then write it again. And that way you stop when it comes to fruition. I mean, you really have to be committed on this one. It's one of those things where if you're going to find that you're not going to be able to commit, like if you can't do it after 7 days, then don't bother starting it, because you may then leave it in between, and we won't really know the result then, what kind of results you guys gather on the other end. So if you can commit to it for at least for 6 months, if you think you can commit to it for 6 months, then you have a good, fair chance of making this work for yourselves. And if you can't, and if you might give up after 2 weeks, then I would suggest that don't do it. Stick to the other tools that we have. Now, I was looking through the book of Genesis, Bereshith, and I want to give you something this time around that might help you, all of you, that a lot of the times, a lot of people that I speak to here across the world, is that all people think that the book of Genesis or Bible in general, or call it Torah in general, is just a list of commands. That's all they think. It's just a list of commands. Oh, it's too much work, and it's all legal, and it's this, that, and the other. That's what they think. And so they've already lost the plot. The people who think that it's a list of commands already lost the plot. And this is why I say to the people that it's not about the Sabbath. It's not about a festival or the 7 festivals. You really lost the plot if you just pin the Torah on festivals and Sabbath. You lost the plot. You're already you're already probably ready for the outside world, and you're not going to get very far. Put it this way, because that's all you know. And I know people over here who haven't got from A to B, and that's all they've done all their life. There's people over here that have been doing Sabbath for 20 years, and I look at their lives, and their lives haven't moved from A to B, and I say, well, it's not just about the Sabbath. There's a much more involved. So when I was looking at the book of Bereshith, especially, and this is common in many chapters of the Bible, but I'll particularly speak about the first chapter of Genesis. The first chapter of Genesis is such a monumental chapter that is absolutely key to your success. Absolutely key. If you know what you're looking for. And I can guarantee you that until today that I'm going to open up some things in the book of Genesis, you would have never known it. You probably would have continued with Sabbath and festivals. You'd probably be dead 6 foot under, and then maybe some angel will tell you, hey, you could have done this, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Only somebody had told me. So this is what I'm going to tell you now, is that the book of Genesis is such a monumental book, and especially the chapter 1. Chapter 1 is all about manifesting. All about manifesting. And there are key phrases in chapter 1 that, even if you read Hebrew, you wouldn't know about it. Let's put it this way. Why is that? Because what's happened is we had a distortion of the original Hebrew. We had a distortion of the original sounds. Because of the distortion of the original sounds and the Hebrew, the way it was, you know that we don't see Hebrew the way it was written with picture form. We don't see it in picture form any longer. It's just, the characters that you see printed in printed newspaper or printed Bibles. You just see this square script Hebrew, which is really Aramaic script. But you do not see the picture form, so therefore you already, you're kind of half disadvantaged at, you don't see the picture, what it means. So picture actually represented words, meanings. That was one thing. Second thing, that with the Hebrew is that, remember, now let me ask you a question. Before God created the universe, okay, so there was a time in past history that God was up there, doing His own thing, having a cup of coffee and deciding that He wanted to create the world. What was happening? What did happen in the universes before creation? Can anybody tell me? What did God do in His spare time? Let's put it this way. What was God doing in spare time before He created the universe? What would be there? It's a very simple question. What would be there before creation? Some of you can have an attempt to it if you like. If you don't attempt it, I'll give you the answer. It's not a problem. I'm more than happy to give you the answer. Yes, they were but that's creation, Atara. Before creation, luxury cars, that would be creation. I'm saying before creation, what was there? What was before we got the Bible, before we got the books the way we have it today? We got the books, God chose a certain people and gave them some information, and they then, ran with it, and, we had these people, come up from nowhere called Israel, and then they got a covenant from God, and so on and so forth. But what actually happened? Well, let me read something to you from the book of Deuteronomy, Reah. The book, the Parsha Reah is in the book of Deuteronomy. It's basically, Reah means, you shall see. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of Yahweh your power, which I command you this day. And a curse if you not obey the commandments of Yahweh your power, but turn aside out of the way, which I command you this day, to go after other powers which you have not known. Okay, so I'll stop there. And verse 12 kind of continues the same fashion. These are the statutes and judgments which you shall observe to do in the land which Yahweh Elohim of your avot and will give you to possess it all the days that you live upon the earth. Now, that's number one question. My first question was that what did God do prior to creation? And what was God doing? Of course, I just threw the joke, for coffee. Wasn't drinking coffee, but what was God doing? No, you kind of lost the plot a little bit. Look, I sat for 10 years. Let me tell you something about myself. I sat for 10 years in England, in my living room, translating the Bible. I was translating the Bible in my room. Let me give you a clue. I was translating the Bible from, Hebrew and Aramaic. I was going through all those languages, Greek and so on and so forth. And I came up with the translation. What was I doing for 10 years whilst I was translating? I had absolute silence. That's what I was doing. I was working in silence. So what was God doing before creation? Absolute silence. There was no angels. There's no angels. There's no nobody. There's no humanity. God was silent. So there was silence before creation. That's where people lose the plot. So, you heard the term silence is golden? Well, it's actually true. Because you can keep a fast of silence. It would be absolutely wonderful if you did. Because that will build your, it will build your, what they call, frequency, vibration. It will align you with the universes. So staying quiet is actually a good idea. It's a good idea. So don't think that always you have to yep all day long, It's a good idea to sometimes just tell yourself, I'm going to stay silent for 2 hours. I'm going to speak to nobody for 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. I want to have 4 hours of silence. That's my fast. And when you do a silence fast, that is actually tremendously good for you. Tremendously good. It really benefits your inner system. A lot of people don't realize that. People think that you have to be yappity all day long, yet yappity yap all day long actually indicates something wrong with you. It indicates that your throat chakra is actually overactive. It needs correcting. That's what that indicates to you. So it's better to remain silent for portions of the day where you can actually practice it. So what was God doing? He was silent. Should you be silent? Yes. Because if God was practicing silence, I'm pretty sure that if you practice silence, you will be as powerful as God too. You become powerful. It gives you power. A lot of people don't know that. People think, oh, if I'm going to be silent, I'm going to be miserable. But you're not going to be miserable. You're actually going to get power out of that. Now, the thing with the book of Genesis, when I had a cursory look at it one day and I saw something, I thought, oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Because the book of Genesis is all about not just creation, it's all about, well, what created the world? Sounds. Sounds created the world. And I looked at the book of Genesis and I looked at the Hebrew text. And I thought to myself, isn't that interesting that the book of Genesis is all about creation. Creation of what? Not creation that God created. Us, we can create things. We become co-creators with God. If we look at the book of Genesis, you know why? Because you look at the Hebrew words. If you ever have the, willingness to look at the Hebrew word, you will notice something that you will not, even a billion years you will realize, unless you look at the characters. The characters create. See, the first line of the Torah, Bereshith, where everybody gives you this Bereshith, Bara Elohim, At Hashemayim and all that. But let me tell you what that actually is today. That's actually a line of creation. Don't just think, oh, only for God. This is for you as well. These are sounds. These are the sounds that you should be uttering. In the morning when you wake up, you should be uttering these sounds. Your children should be uttering those sounds. And I gave Rabbi Kefa a little bit this week. I said to Rabbi Kefa that, Eddie is saying that he's been banned from the room. Let me just check for Eddie. Eddie is saying he's having difficulty coming into the room. Anybody knows, is Eddie over here? Eddie thinks he's banned. I haven't banned Eddie. So let me just double check. Give me a moment. Oh, Eddie is banned, yeah. He must have been put in there by accident. Wow. Yeah, Eddie was put in by accident, I think. Let me tell Eddie. Okay. So Eddie should be into the room now. Okay. I don't know how that happened. So let me just double check again if I got anybody there that's having problems logging in. I guess I can. Okay. I'm making sure that all bans are cleared for now. I confirm all bans are cleared. Okay, good, great. So all bans are cleared. Eddie should be able to log in. So, coming back to Bereshith. So I gave Rabbi Kefa something, and I told Rabbi Kefa that you must practice this with your son, because this is absolutely key to his success in life. In order to build his root chakra, you have to make that boy say a certain sound every day. And you know how they do it in India? They pinch the boy. They pinch the little kid from the ages of 1 to 4, or maybe even earlier, from 6 months onwards. They pinch the kid. They make him cry. They make him make that sound of ah, because remember, ah is a sound in Yah's name. In Yahweh's name is a sound ah. That's a primordial, important sound. Very, very important sound. And it's right in the book of Bereshith. It's in the Genesis chapter 1. Let me actually say the sound for you in Genesis chapter 1. Don't just read it Bereshith like the Ashkenazi Jews do. They read it in their little soft accent, French accent. with their, they mix their Yiddish, and that's not how it's supposed to be said, by the way. Bereshith are actually characters. Ba, Ra, A, Shin, Ta. These are the characters you're supposed to say. Ba, Ra, A, L, Him, Him. Now the At, we can forget about that. That's just directional. You can say At, but you don't need to. And then you do because the Ha sound is there, but you do the Shemaim. Sheen sounds very important. Sheen, Mim, Ye, Mim, Wa, A, Ta, R, R, Z. Now, these are the sounds that you're supposed to say them. You see, you might think this is like ABC school. But if you said those sounds every morning, religiously, you're actually building yourself up for manifesting power. And you will not be able to build yourself for manifesting power otherwise. So therefore it's very important that you understand that let me give you a primordial sound from the book of Genesis in the first chapter. You'll find it in the pages, but you'll never see it in a million years until today. I'll show you. If you look at the word, the primordial sound, Ah, is there, as I just explained. Ah is there, and the primordial sound, Mim is there. Now, if I go through the book of Genesis, and I open up the first line, you'll find that the Ah is there and the Mim is there. If I look at the second line, in the second line of Genesis, expand this a little bit. We have the Ah sound and we have the Mim sound. We practically have it in every line of Genesis. First chapter, Ah and the Mim. Ah and the Resh, Ah and the Mim again. So what is the primordial sound? Yaqub, you should be able to know this. You come from India. You should be able to tell what the primordial sound is. While I sip my tea, I see Yaqub is probably thinking now, what should be? All the Indian gurus are doing it. Yaqub, all the Indian gurus are doing it today. Not just the Ah, the Om sound. Exactly. That is in the pages of Genesis. And it's not exactly Om, by the way. They're pronouncing it wrong, majority of them. If you go to the internet and you have the word Om, that's actually got a little distortion to it. It's what I call the distorted text. It's actually like you pronounce the word for mango. And you do the mouth close. And it's in the pages of Bereshith. Exactly, Olivia. That is the sound supposed to be in the midbrain meditation. That's why I put it there. So that sound comes out of, by the way, it comes out of the first pages of Genesis. If you don't know where it comes out of, and it goes like this. Let me give it to you in the second line. If you look at the first line of Genesis, where it says Elohim, it's in the word of God. Remove the lamed, and you know what you're going to get? Remove the word lamed, remove the letter L, and that is in the character or name of God. That is why God used Elohim and not Yud-He-Wah-He. It's absolutely amazing. This is an amazing find. No rabbi is going to tell you that on this earth except me. You're only going to hear this from me, and maybe others will pick it up from me. There is the Am sound, the primordial sound that you will find in the book of Genesis. And it's actually a sound that you should practice every day. So, you might say the word Elohim. Yes, say the word Elohim, but say it properly. Don't do it the distorted. The distorted form is Elohim. What is the right form? Allah, Alahim, Allahim. So you get the meme sound in the end. So, Allahim, Allahim, Allahim. Do you understand now? Do you see the sound there? It is the primordial sound of creation. That is why we find it in the first line of the book of Genesis. And it is not what most people think. It's not because God didn't want to put His name there. It's actually God was silent, and then God spoke the sound, and then things came into being. So when you practice every morning, this is what you need to do. Every morning you practice Ah. Practice it 10 times. Ah, 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 Ah. Practice it 10 times. Then you practice the Oo sound. Oo, Oo, Oo. 10 times. Then the meme sound. Or meme. You can say meme, or you can say Yes, Elohim is plural. Absolutely is plural. But it's not just a plural name or a title. It's actually the primordial sound is in there of the creation. It is a sound of creation. And if you speak that sound of creation, you're building yourself with that power. Yes, it would be else, but it would be plurality of powers. It's like Echad, one Elohim, a plurality of powers. We don't know how many powers exist within God. We don't know that. We don't know because we don't have a number. The Bible doesn't tell us a number. The Bible simply tells us, uses the word Elohim, but does not tell us how many powers. So this is very important. So if you want to, this is something that I want you to teach you, and exactly, Eddie, our images, and this is something you do every morning. If I can teach you anything, and if I teach you this right, this is the key to wealth and success and happiness. This sound of God's name. Within it is the ingredient of life and universes. So, all the CEOs, that today you have all these big CEOs in America that are very rich, guess where they went to learn their primordial sounds? They went to India. That's where they learned it from. Apple CEO, he's now deceased, Steve Jobs. He actually went to India. The only book that I read about Steve Jobs that he reads was the Yoganand book, the Yogi from India. Is the only book he ever read, and the only book he had on his iPad. Today we have people with all sorts of Kindle titles on the iPad, but he only had that one title. Yoganand was from India. Steve Jobs was from America. So he is the founder of Apple computers and Apple phones and all sorts of other things. Now you understand that, Yaqub? Now you understand where Abraham came from? Abraham was a Brahman priest. He was from a Brahman priestly family. I've spoken about this before as well. So he knew the primordial sounds. That is why Abraham was very successful. That is why God called him. So we need to understand a little bit of our history. And problem is that we don't learn the history. Abraham's family came from India, and they went to Turkey, and they lived in southeastern Turkey. From there, God called out Abraham, and He brought him to Israel. His father had a temple, like a Hindu temple, of idols that his father worshipped. These are like the primordial types, the archetypes. It could be, we don't know exactly today because we don't have the evidence to prove, but I can prove to you that Abraham's father worshipped the same statues that see in India today. He had the same ones. He probably had Lakshmi there. He probably had Hanuman over there. He probably had others there. He probably did. Because he was being brought to a new way of living, a new covenant, and a new types. So his name was changed from Abram, which was from the Brahman tribe, and he was from Brahman. He became Abraham. So God had brought him as a father of a new nation of people. In fact, many nations are going to come from Abraham. So having said that, so what you want to get right, Yaakov and the rest, is your Om sound. You will hear the Om sound a lot on the internet, but it's pronounced incorrectly. And a lot of the YouTube recordings are pronounced Om is incorrect. Because the Om actually has the word Ya in it. And then it has the Meme sound in it. And that's from God's name, by the way. And many people knew that prior to it being kind of becoming lost and, out there in space. So what you want to do is when you sit in the morning for 108 times, if you chant, whether you can chant quietly or loudly or within your heart, you chant the Om sound correctly, that will change your lives dramatically. It's the change of you altogether. Because what that sound does, it starts from your root chakra, the Muladhara chakra. From the root chakra it goes right up to your, to your nose. It touches your third eye. That's how powerful this sound is. It activates your midbrain. It activates your root chakra. It activates your midbrain. So you want to do that every day, 108 times. But you want to do it, you don't want to do it like the way you hear it on the internet with the O sound. The O sound is the distorted form. You want to do it with the Ah sound. This is how you do it. So if you can get this right, then you're going to start clocking money in the bank. You're going to start building beautiful businesses. You're going to start employing people. You're going to do all sorts of things. Let me give you another secret today. The Om sound that you commonly know as the Om sound, that can cure ADHD in children. You know why children have ADHD? Because when they're brought up, they're not really trained properly, they're not really treated well, and they become ADHD, hyperactive. If you gave the child, if you sat the child down and said, do this sound, and if the child did this sound a few times every day, his ADHD will be cured, 100%. Negativity will go from you. If you do this sound, negativity will go from you. You will start creating, you will start manifesting faster. So if you can do anything right, sometimes some people complain about having difficulty to write a lot of things down. So if you can do the Om sound right, you're on to a winner. You can list your name with the CEOs of the, American big companies. Think about it. Bill Gates, do you think he's going to give you this information? He'll sell you a piece of software, alright? So we can operate it and get onto, Paltalk. He'll do that, so you can pay for it. But he will not teach you how to do, how to become wealthy. He will not do that for you. I will do that for you. I'm doing that for you. Steve Jobs will sell you an Apple computer, but Steve Jobs is not going to tell you how he became rich and what he did, what kind of meditation he did every morning. So this is one of the secrets. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Larry Williams, Larry Ellis, all these big names, they do it. But they will not tell you. They will not tell you what they do. All you will hear from the media is they all meditate every morning. All these billionaires, they tell you they meditate in the morning, but they don't tell you what they meditate, what they do. It's just they meditate. So one of the things they do is this. And I'm giving you the first class version of it. I'm not giving you the distorted version that you hear in YouTube. And if you can get this right, then you're on to your success road. So get this right. Do it 108 times. You got the P-shoe bracelet? Great. If you have the P-shoe bracelet, use it. That's a tool. But what I'm giving you is going to change you completely. This is 10,000 times better than the P-shoe bracelet. This is a primordial sound of creation. God used this sound to create the universes. The entire galaxies was created out of this sound. And this is why you got to practice getting it right. If you give it to children, their ADHD will be cured. People with diabetes, People with high blood pressure, it will go. If they can practice this sound right every day, they will remove diseases from themselves. They will bring happiness into their lives. So I sat here today and I thought, all this week I've been so excited, and I thought I got to teach my people this. I got to teach them this. It's now time for unleashing this information, unleashing the beast. So get it right. Get it right. Get the Om sound, get it right. Because if you can get this right, you're already on your way to success. It will change your life as you know it completely. I guarantee you, it will change your life. Things will start to happen, and you will things are starting to shake. Things are starting to move. And now I given an exercise to somebody here. One of my students, actually two of my students, Rabbi Kefa gave to as well, and one other person, to test it out. Now this exercise is a little bit involved, and it's by a very controversial guy. This is something that I've kind of modified a little bit, but it's actually from a very controversial guru, and his name is Osho. And maybe you can go listen to him. He didn't believe in God. He had problems with all sorts of, he basically didn't believe in anything. He didn't believe in Hinduism and all the things that Hindus do and other people. He didn't believe in any of that. He said this was all, let me put it politely. He said it didn't matter. He said it wasn't useful. And, if you ask him about God, he says, no, there's no God. Things like that. He was a very controversial figure. But apparently he manifested over 90 Rolls Royces. This controversial figure, sitting in his ashram, manifested over 90 Rolls Royces. Now, of course, he's got to have some great information to do that, whether he believes in God or not. Because it's not about believing in God that gives you wealth. People think that, if I go to the right church, if I do the right thing, God will help me. No. God doesn't care whether you ride in a bicycle or whether you ride in a Mercedes. He don't care. Because God simply cares that you do the right thing. And if you do the right thing, you can have all you want. See, this is why I keep saying it's not just about a Sabbath. You know what the Sabbath is? The Sabbath is a time. It's a period of hours that you're supposed to be totally detached from manifesting. That's what the Sabbath is. And if you can do that, 6 days you do your chanting, you do your affirmation, you do your things. 7th day you completely detach. And that's what meant to be the Sabbath. All these numbers in the Bible, 7 times 7, 49 and all that, they mean something. They're not just numbers. So this is why I say to you that problem is that most people have made our faith into a religion and added a lot of mumbo jumbo to it, and made it into like some kind of a cult. It's not a cult. It's actually a way of living. And when we apply the correct way to live, you will reap the benefits tremendously. You will receive money, wealth, happiness, a great wife, children. Why would you care about just being ritualistic all the time? Because I've seen ritualistic people, they got miserable lives. Believe me, I have seen ritualistic people in Pakistan, in England, in America, in Israel, miserable lives. You don't want to be part of that misery. And you don't want to add to their misery. So, learn what the Torah is about. Yes, we have the Sabbath. Yes, we have the prayers. But behind everything is actually a bigger picture. Bigger meaning. And if you can get that, you'll be tremendously successful. Now, Osho, what I was talking about Osho has a way of yoga. It's called dynamic yoga. And it's something that you should practice. I'd encourage you to at least look at it, practice it. Osho's yoga. It's like 4 forms. And I can point you to if I can find it, I'll point you to the actual, the videos. He has a few, Osho didn't do the videos, by the way. The videos were done by a British doctor. a really good, soft-spoken British doctor. He spoke about those videos and he illustrated how to do that Osho type yoga, and I'm really impressed by the I'll have to probably go there, Osho, and search for the video. Actually, I have it somewhere in my list. Kefa may have it. Rabbi Kefa may be able to forward you the one I sent him. So maybe I can find it, and then I will give it to you. So remember, Osho, right, was maybe he was like a nut to most people, but Osho did have some great ideas. He was right about some things that people kind of didn't like, but I've heard Osho and I've listened to him and I've seen his methods, but I do certainly will vouch for his yoga. His dynamic yoga is absolutely fantastic. It's great. I think you should all practice it. It's a little bit involved though. It is a bit involved, and you may get tired with it. What I would suggest is, I'll give you the link over here in a few minutes when I hand over the mic to Rabbi Kefa. But what I will do is, what I would suggest, there are 4 stages to it, to Osho's yoga, the dynamic form. And the yoga, what you do in the first one, what happens is that you would do the breathing through your nose only. And though they say 10 minutes each step, I would cut it down to 5 minutes each step. So the total will be 20 minutes. There's 4 steps. 5 times 4 is 20. Once you can master the 5 times 4, then you can increase it to 10 minutes if you like. And you're not supposed to do this forever, by the way. You only do this maybe, depending on where you are, how badly, how bad your system is, how, disproportionate your system is. This can fix your system within 3 weeks, max. So if you're carrying a lot of guilt, if you're carrying a lot of heartache, if you're carrying a lot of other problems in your system, and these are problems that live in your system, they live in your cells. They might be in your shoulders, you might get a shoulder pain, they might be in your legs, you might get a leg pain, a hip pain, or some other pain, a back pain. That's where they live. So, anger, other things, all of these things are in your system, they're in your cells. So what this Osho yoga will do, it will remove that for you. It will get rid of it. You will kind of throw it out of your body by that exercise. So I suggest you do 5 minutes each as a practice. The first 5 minutes you only breathe through your nose, very fast, without rhythm. So you're not going to be like breathing like this, not like this. You're going to go really fast through your nose. You don't open your mouth. You breathe through your nose really fast for the first 5 minutes. Although he recommends 10, but I'd say 5 as a start is good. And then after 5 minutes, the next stage, I'm going to tell you something that Osho didn't say. Because obviously Osho didn't believe in God. But I'll tell you, because I do believe in God, and I do believe in the God of Israel. The second bit involves the name of God. In what you do is you jump up and you use the word who. By the way, who is the highest form of God's name? Now, because Osho didn't believe in God, therefore he didn't say that. So, because I do, I'll tell you that. This is the highest form of God's name, is who. Muslims use it, Jews use it as well, but they don't tell you. You will not hear this from the Jews. You hear it from me, because I'm a Kohen, and I will tell the truth. I won't hide the truth. So, you do the word who. You jump up, you do who. And you keep jumping up, who, for 5 minutes. You're going to get tired after about a minute. Your arm's going to be killing you. Your shoulder's going to be killing you. Then you're going to be like, okay, you're going to have to, maybe half raise shoulders. Maybe give them a rest for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and then raise them again. So you're going to have to get used to it. But it's tremendous exercise. You'll get exercise. You'll also remove your negativities, your fears, your, things that you don't want to keep in your body, pains, other things. So you do this who for 5 minutes, jumping up. And I'll give you the link, and you can see it in the video. It explains it how it's done. And after that, the third stage is the madness stage. You create insanity by yourself. And you won't become insane, but you pretend. Like, remember King David? King David did this, by the way. This is also in the Bible. King David became mad to the public. So what you do in madness? For 5 minutes for madness, you start crying, you start laughing, you start throwing your hands about all over the place. So you just pretend you do act. This is called acting. You act madness for 5 minutes. It's complete madness. After 5 minutes, the last stage is the dancing stage. In this last stage, you just dance in the room, you just dance about, you're breathing normal, dancing around. But I will add something to this stage where I modified it somewhat. Is you'd face the mirror. If you have a mirror in your room, you face the mirror and you can say the affirmations. You can say, I love myself. You can say that a few times. I love myself, I love myself. Then after that you can do your affirmations. Some of the affirmations that you remember, they're not so hard, not so long-winded, short ones. I'm a millionaire, or I become a millionaire, etc. I own a beautiful car, I own a beautiful home. You can do those affirmations whilst you're doing the dance phase. You don't even need a mirror, you can just say them. The reason why you say them at that time, because that is when your subconscious is open to receiving this text. Because when you go through the first stage, the subconscious and the conscious mind, by the way, there are 8 minds. There are 8 layers to the mind. So, and I've got a call coming in now. So, I'll have to take that afterwards. So, just to know that if you follow this through, your subconscious is receptive at that point. When you've done these 4 stages, the 4th stage, your subconscious is so receptive that whatever you say goes right down to it. So I will give you the link, and I want you to listen to the recordings. By all means, go download the recording, look at how it's done. But mine is modified. I have modified areas of it to make it more attuned to what we do and how we achieve things. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic back to Rabbi Kefa, and I'll give you the link in a few minutes while I find it. Todah for that, over to you, Rabbi Kefa.
Yeah, Todah Rabbi HaKohen, as we continue to press on. Baruch Hashem, if I can be heard, can I get a 1? Todah HaKohen for your instruction and your guidance. It's apropos to us having heaven on earth and no heaven in the sky. How many of you want heaven here on earth, Baruch Hashem? Heaven is now. My paradise is now, right now, and I'm totally enjoying it. And every day is just another day in paradise for me. And so, Baruch Hashem, I give thanks. Well, I give thanks, Master, to the Master, the powers of Israel, the powers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the powers of King Solomon, the powers of Shimshon, of Samson. I give thanks because today my son is officially turned 11 months old. And I will tell you something. That everything, before HaKohen told me about this, everything Nakshan points at, he says Like when he wants something, he's pointing now. And he'll say So I sent HaKohen a video of that as well. So he was already doing it before I knew he was doing it. Before I knew what was really going on. Baruch Hashem. So I give thanks, and I tell you, HaKohen has given me some great instruction that I will pass on to my son. And my son will be quite powerful when it comes to whatever he wants in this life, in this world, in his paradise, which is now. So I give thanks always. And I'm so happy to be a facilitator, to pass on a legacy of success, of love, of happiness, of peace. Here comes now the little Lion King himself. So I think it's very, very important for us to understand going forward is that we utilize these tools, and not only utilize them, because now we're getting these tools back. And I want to quote you from our books, because I think it's very important and very apropos for this time. You see, and that's important, is that we must see, because listen to what the Master says. As he's talking to his rabbis, he's talking to his students, and it's from the book of Luke. The book of Luke, chapter 8, verses 9. And his disciples, I'm going to set the stage. His disciples, he just gave an awesome parable. But his disciples asked him in verse 9 of Luke chapter 8. His disciples said, and his disciples asked him, saying, what might this parable be? Because, and if you notice when you look at the world as a whole, it's just one big parable, right? Think about it. All these different religions, it's just one big parable. And it's really difficult for folks to really understand the parable, and a lot of folks don't want to understand the parable of life, the parable, of life itself. And they'll make up and create different things that, will help them would soothe them, give them the assurity of that they're on the right path, or they'll make up something that'll just make them be comfortable for themselves within them. That would just make I guess the best word I can use would be content. People just do things to make them content, whatever it may be, instead of really getting to the source, instead of really getting to the grits and greens like we talk about all the time, the meat and potatoes. And look at what the Master said in Luke chapter 8 verses 10. And he goes on to say, and he said, to you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim. To you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim. And it's not the Kohen continually giving us, the keys to the kingdom of Elohim. Different keys, the keys that will unlock different doors, whatever door you want to go into in your kingdom. What door do you want to go into of your kingdom? Ask yourself that question. What door do I want to go into my kingdom? Now, this yoga, believe me, I was in the car house, as my wife called it, the garage doing these things, and, I don't like to be interrupted when I'm doing these things, so they don't come in, and I was like, man, because it is a mystery, and it may be seen, it is quite, from what the mainstream may see of, as different, as awkward, as like weird. But when you look at the link that Hakoy just posted, you'll see what I mean. But I tell you what, it may seem unorthodox when you see it from from just your carnal eye. And this is why I think it's so apropos that we're dealing with Rahi, with the Parsha, to see. So it is given, to you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Elohim, but to others in parables, that seeing they may not see, and hearing they may not understand. And this, in a nutshell, sums up everything that has been discussed to you in Hakoy's lecture. We say one thing, and we say what we've been, conditioned to say. We say, especially when it comes to Judaism, you say what the Yiddish is what's been given out there. But again, that's been watered down too. And our true meaning, just like that video I had discussed with you guys, I had watched about this, this African country and this, these guys, they're talking about, well, how our ancestors were saying it is not how we're saying it today. Our language has been polluted. Thus the power has been taken out of it. You know what I mean? But Baruch Hashem, the empowerment and the infusion of power back into our primordial language, our primordial history is being given back to us through who? Through the son of Aaron. Through a son of Aaron, Baruch Hashem. You all should be jumping, dancing like David right now. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Is that now we have that opportunity. Not only do I have it with my son to pass these things on, but for myself as well. And so I'm setting the stage for a legacy that will be passed on until, the master power so desires to linger, then it will continue on from strength to strength and not from weakness to weakness. But truly, when we look at the words of the master, truly what is said here, the master Yeshua ben Yosef, what is said here is so true. These things are like a mystery. Isn't it right? You look at what you were just taught by Hakoim, what we were just taught. This is like a mystery to us that's being unveiled, that's being revealed. And then we can take and apply these things and see the power of it. Right? It's so important. And on the discussion of powers, I tell you, this is by no happenstance. I tell you, we're truly linked into powers. Because, I read something, I was looking, not Sean, he loves to pull books out of the bookshelf. And he pulled the book of our, how you have the family reunions and get these books up on the family tree. Where there was this saying in that book of our family tree that we trace back our family back to whatever and blah, blah, blah. But on my mother's side, my mother had mailed me this book. And it was a family reunion. It was about the family tree. And it had this statement about, a tree has many branches that'll branch out in different directions. But at the end of the day, all those branches are connected to one root. I was like, wow, that's an awesome statement. All those branches are connected to one root. And that's all of you, family, my family. We're all branched out all over the world. If you would draw us right now on a map, if you would draw us out right now, we're branches and we're branched out all over the place, all over the world, to the four corners of this earth, as our books tell us. But we're connected to that one root, and that's the important thing, is that we must be connected into that one root. You can't go pulling the branch can't pull out a root last time I checked. To pull out the root, you have to go to the source. So in dealing with powers, and this is evidence for all of you who still may have that Christian mindset, we're going to go right to what they call the Gospels, and we're going to pull it right out of the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, however you want to call him. We're going to pull it out of his own words. Now, let's look at this in the book of Mark. The book of Mark. Now, I'm going to set the stage for this as well. The Master is being interrogated by the same, let's just call it the religion that it had become. And this is firmly why I believe the Master had to come back, because he had to set the record straight. Because what was being shown in what they call Judaism was fake and it was phony. And we had already begun to see let's just say the imposters had already moved in to our way of life, to the way that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob had established. You had imposters move in, and then they had their own agenda as well. Everybody comes with an agenda. Everybody does. And so this is what happened. So they came in with their agenda, and then they saw the true intended meaning of what Moses wrote in the books. They saw that as foreign and as wicked and as evil. Let's pick it up here. Let's look at let's look at chapter 14. And so now the persecution of the Master, he's sitting there. And again, just like Hakohen said in his lecture, I hadn't talked to Hakohen about lectures, but they were trying to prosecute the Master Yeshua, the Master Yahweh, but the Master kept silent. He wouldn't say anything. Remember Hakohen talked about silence is golden, and I'm pretty sure, all of your grandmothers, howbeit past and resting with their full mothers, or still alive and kicking, would always give or set some kind of form of this kind of statement here. If you don't have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all. How many of you have heard that from your foremothers? That's great wisdom. If you cannot say anything good, then don't say anything at all. Don't speak. Be silent. You don't have to sit there and like I talked about, running a marathon with your mouth. You don't have to do that. But again, how many of you notice this as well, study as students of human nature, is that when you're silent, people think something wrong with you. How many of you had that happen? Well, people will actually come up to you and say, hey, is there something wrong with you? Because you haven't said anything in a while. Or do you have some kind of problem? You don't speak. Do you have some kind of problem? Is there something like wrong with you because you don't say much? People of France, Oliver says all my life. But so people will even see that. Are you sick? Because you don't say anything to our little statements that we're making, or you don't always add your 2 cents in. Why don't you do that? Silence is golden at times. But when the Master did speak here, as he was dealing with the high priest, so-called high priest of the temple at that time, which we know during that time that the Master walked the face of the earth, this set the stage. Now, this verse that he says, these words that came out of his mouth set the stage for them to set up a court case against him for him to be held on the charge of blasphemy. Here's what he said. Look at Luke chapter 14, verse 62. I'm reading from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, or what you may know of as the Hidden Truth He Breaks Scrolls. But the Master said, and it says here in verse 62 of Mark chapter 14, and Yeshua said, I am the Yah, or Ahaya, I am the Yah, and you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of Shemaim. Now, I highlighted the word sitting at the right hand of the power. How many of you see that in your scrolls? Of course you have it. If you have the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, you have the Hidden Truth He Scrolls. But also, let me tell you this, and this is what is so shocking. You will also see it in the King Jimmy Israel. Let me read it from the King Jimmy. Didn't say nothing about no God here. Didn't say nothing about the God of the Christians. Look at what the Master said in his own words. Reading from the King James Version. I am, and you shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming down, sitting at the right hand of power, not of God. I want to clarify that. This is the King James. See, they couldn't get it all out. They tried, but they could not get it all out. Sitting at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Sitting at the right hand of power. Are you with me, Mishpachah? So it wasn't all taken out. It's powers. This is why that word power has power to it. It has more meaning than God. Of course, we understand that there are lesser powers and greater powers. But to sit at the right hand of powers, Baruch Hashem, of powers. You and I have that same power. We're connected. Remember we talked about the root? We're connected to that source, that power source. We're branched out, and we may be this way, that way, and the other way. Right hand, luxury class said right hand can mean a statement of authority. Sure it can. Sure it can. But what I want to hone in on, why didn't he say, I'm sitting at the right hand of my Father, I'm sitting at the right hand of God? No, you sit at the right hand of power. Do you see where I'm going? You see how it's all connected? As you heard in Hakoi's lecture, he was also talking about power as well. You see? Of power. And of course we understand that those powers are not just singular, they're plural. There's powers. A tree just don't have one branch, does it? It has many branches, you see. Of powers. Sitting at the right hand of powers. Baruch Hashem. That's who you and I are connected to. We're connected to, we're rooted in powers. You have to understand how powerful you all really are. Within yourself. You don't have to go look for powers. You're connected to powers. Baruch Hashem. You have powers. Just like that song talked about. I got the power. That's true. You have the power. But again, now you have to utilize that power. It has to be properly connected. Remember we talked about connectivity? You have to be properly plugged in. When you're plugged in properly, then the socket or the unit will work. Any of you do international traveling, you know what I'm talking about. When you go with your 210 to the east, you'll find that your 210 doesn't work, does it? You have to convert to your 220. And if you try to plug your 110 into that 220 socket, you're going to find out that, your equipment is going to be, let's just say less than operational. You see? You'll find that out real quick. You'll find that out when you blowing fuses and your electronics are not going to work properly. And this is what happens. Now, you take that example of 110 to 220. I'm pretty sure all of you have seen the different sockets, especially those of you who have traveled. You've seen the different electrical sockets. Take that and apply that to the kingdom of the Most High, the kingdom of powers. If you're not plugged in right, this is what you see with all these different religions that they all cropped up. They all came up with. They all manifested. Is that, remember I told you, everybody has an agenda behind everything that they do. There's an agenda. The agenda. An agenda is to follow this way, follow that way, follow that way. But we're told not to follow that way in this parsha to see. If you want to properly see, then don't follow that way. Because, again, and I wrote this down, Rabbi Bania, I wrote this down. And it's a question. It's a question for him. Who has sight? That's the question I have for you this day. Truly, as students of human nature, who has sight? More importantly, we need to ask ourselves this question. Do I have sight? Do I have sight? Who has sight? As they were condemning and placing judgment on the Master Yeshua, the Master Jesus of Nazareth, truly, these so-called people in positions of authority, and this is why I read that verse that the Master talked about. He talked about, but to others in Luke chapter 8, verses 10, but to others in parables that seem they may not see. Yeah, you may see me as a man, you may see me as just your equal, but you don't see the bigger picture. The high priest didn't see, they couldn't see. Because they were so caught up in what they had already manipulated or manufactured, which is Judaism. And that root of Judaism that I can proudly say in all humility that I'm not a part of, the root of Judaism. I'm not connected to that root as a branch. But I am connected to powers. I am connected to source. Baruch Hashem. That seeing they may not see, and hearing that they may not understand. The high priest couldn't understand what the Master Yeshua was talking about. And saw it. You see, people fear what they do not understand. And then thus marked, and that the words that came out of the Master's mouth set the stage for him, being persecuted for blasphemy. Because he said, I am the Yah, if you have the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. He said, I am the Yah, and you shall see me. You shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of the power. Sitting at the right hand of the power. And coming in the clouds of Shemaim, Baruch Hashem. Many folks can't grasp that because, again, as I asked the question, who has sight? And more importantly, I followed that up with another question. Who has sight to see? Who has sight, and then who has sight to see? Students of human nature, is very important that you do this assessment on people that are around you. People see, but people don't see. People have sight, but people cannot see. How do you differentiate the two? Everybody has eyes to see, but cannot see. And the Master talked about this many times in parables. About the blind leading the blind, and both of them ended up in the ditch. You see, you have sight, but you cannot see. Difference between Om and Do you get it? Hakoin's lecture was all about that. Having sight, but cannot see. Thus, you cannot produce anything because you're blind. You're blinded to prosperity. You're blinded to wealth. You're blinded to health. You're blinded to great relationship. You're blinded to whatever you want. Because, yeah, you have sight, but you don't, do you have the sight to really see? And it's important to see. You have to see this. This is why all of you are doing it right now, including myself. I'm rewriting what I see. I'm remaking, replaying, editing what I see. I see that new car. I don't see a banger, I see the new car. You see, I see my world as I want to see it, not how it may be physically right now, but I see my world as how it is now. And it may not match up to what I see right now. Yes, I'm in a house right now, but I see myself with many houses now as well. You understand what I'm saying? And for the carnal mind and for the carnal eye, it's difficult to put 2 and 2 together and get 4. This is why we run into this, this confliction with ourselves sometimes and with other people, because they may think, well, my goodness, you're kind of weird. You're not mainstream. You're not following what you see and what you say is not lining up, because they have sight, but they don't see. And you're going to run into this many times over in your world, in your circle of influence, and those that are around you, is that they may not understand you, either by what you're saying and by what you see and what they observe. Because most of human nature, they base their observation on, or their opinions on what they observe of you. They'll come up to you and say, I've been watching you. Observation. Moshe, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, he was preparing the children of Israel for the same thing. When you look at Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 28 all the way to 30, he says, observe and hear all these words which I command you. Observation. How do you observe something? Can anybody tell me? How do you observe with your eye? I'm giving it away. Do you observe with your eyes? Do you observe with your feet? Do you observe with your hands? How do you observe something? When in your observation, how do you observe? Do you observe with your brain? Think about all these things. Do you observe with your mind? Do you observe with your subconscious? How do you observe? Or are you too fascinated by absorbing things? Or do you observe or absorb? Two different words. Most folks that walk the face of this earth are magnets for absorbing things. This is why they can sit in front of the TV, or they can quote what this politician said, because they're just in absorbing mode. How many of you understand there's a big gulf, there's a big divide between observation and absorption? You're being absorbed by the content, whatever you put within yourself. And most of the time, it's just a bunch of trash. And so what do they say? Trash in, guess what comes out? Trash out. Negativity in, guess what's going to come out? Negativity's going to come out. So be mindful and be on guard against being in observation mode and being in observation mode, to where you're just being absorbed by everything, and you're just like a sponge. You're a dry sponge, and you're being soaked up by all these different waters out there. You're filling yourself up with all these different waters. You're just sucking up all these different waters out there that are of no benefit to you, that are not helping you in one way, shape, form, or fashion. Don't be in the observation mode. Be in the observation mode, to where you observe everything that's around you, and you do proper assessment on, is this beneficial to, what my desires are for myself, or is this totally the opposite of that? Is this not beneficial but detrimental to what I'm trying to accomplish and what I am accomplishing now on the face of this earth. As I walk the face of this earth and as I go about my daily actions. It's very important. And so Moses, as he's getting ready to exit stage left, and he's getting ready to go sleep with his fathers, he's telling Israel, he's telling the Hebrews before they cross over. He said, observe to hear all the words which I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever. Baruch Hashem. I want it to go well for Nachshon, and it will go very, very well for Nachshon, and it is well for Nachshon now. Baruch Hashem. When you do all that is good and right in the sight of Yahweh your power. Look at verse 29 of Deuteronomy chapter 12. And when Yahweh your power shall cut off all the nations from before you, where you go to possess them, and you succeed them and dwell in their land. Somebody had to get kicked out before, our forefathers moved in. You see? And everything in life, you want to be a success. You don't want to be a failure. You want to be a success. So you are success. Don't say, well, that's what I want to be. Say, you are success. Wherever you decide to put your hat. There's this song that says, Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. So wherever you lay your hat, you will be a success. Musa goes on to tell him in verse 30 of Deuteronomy chapter 12, take heed to yourself that you are not entrapped by following them, after that they be destroyed from before you, and that you inquire. Remember I talked about those that want to just absorb instead of observe. They want to absorb. Here it is right here in verse 30 of Deuteronomy chapter 12. That you inquire not after their power, saying, how do these nations serve their powers? Even so will you do likewise. You see, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the questions that's not going to be beneficial to whatever you desire for yourself. You're just trying to, remember I talked about absorbing? You are absorbing information that is detrimental to yourself, you see. Be on guard, Mishpahat, today in 2020, especially in this political season we here in North America, that you're not absorbing yourself with all of this. You're not being absorbed, but you're observing. Baruch Hashem, you're observant. And as a HaKohen would tell you, and I will back him up 110%, is that you're taking full advantage of the blessings of coronavirus. Because you are observing things. You're not being absorbed by all of the negativity. Oh, look for, we're going to have the worst winter ever. Because that's what they're telling you. If you absorbing all that information, and it is information, howbeit factual or not fact or fiction, but it's information. And some folks, they waste their whole lives on the face of this earth just being absorbed and absorbing all this information that has no two hoots to what they want to accomplish in life. And when you talk to them, they just begin to parrot all of the information that they have been absorbing. How many of you know people like that? They're like a walking, just news media station of just telling you all this stuff that has no relevance to what they want to accomplish in life. Because they're absorbing all of this information that has no meaning, no purpose to what they want to accomplish. You see? And you sit there and look at them and say, okay, all this stuff, how's that helping you? What do you want? And they can't tell you what they want. That's like foreign to you. Like, well, what do you want? What do you desire? And then, well, no, let me tell you about what this politician said. Well, what does it have to do with what you want to desire? What does it have to do with beans in Colombia? It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. What do you want for yourself? Powers wants you to be successful. Powers wants you to be happy, full of joy, peace, and love. Not this robot that's just parroting out all this information that you have absorbed, be it fact or be it fiction. At the end of the day, what does that have to do with you meeting your goals, your marks? What marks do you have set for yourself? And they're like, it's like you talking a foreign language to them. Like, what do you mean, what marks? I love God. Okay, but what marks do you want to meet with the God that you love? You're like, well, I love God and I want to do His will. Well, what does that have to do with beans in Colombia? Well, the God is asking you, what do you want? He's saying, what do you want? What makes you happy? What gives you joy and peace and love and doesn't make you angry and depressed and despondent? But most people want to stay on that side of angry and depressed and despondent and in disarray and just a disaster. But that's not what that's not what powers wants for you. But there are gods out there that want that for you. Matter of fact, they thrive in that kind of state. Your state of, poverty instead of prosperity. Some gods out there, they thrive on that. And they want you to stay that way because they suck out of you. They fill you with just nothingness, and then they suck out of you that life force, that energy that you have within you, and you find yourself energyless. And you find yourself thoughtless because you don't think for yourself. You think the thoughts that you have absorbed over time. And at one time or another, we in some form, we're all guilty of that. If you ever said, well, Pastor said, then you're guilty of it. Because you weren't thinking for yourself. You were thinking for what Pastor told you. But what does yourself tell you? What makes you comfortable? What makes you happy? What gives you, that state of being to where you're at total bliss with self? It's not waiting on a by and by. That's fictitious. That by and by, it's going to happen, brother, when I get to heaven. Forget about it. So now I have to suffer here on the face of this earth so that my heaven will be even better and my mansion will be even more square footage. What kind of mumbo? I'm talking about square footage now. And I tell you what, one of the blessings, I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the blessings of the corona here in North America is that people are starting to buy houses like crazy. There's a real estate boom in the midst of this so-called plague and pandemic. How many of you have noted that? People are buying houses like crazy. Not only buying houses, but are actually refinancing their homes as well. Saving money that way as well. There's blessings in this corona. Eddie says, and everyone's moving to Texas. Not only Texas, now the hot spot is Florida. Florida is everybody is packing up from the north and from the west, and they're moving to Florida. That's like the hot spot. That is the hot spot. They're packing up and they're moving out. Well, why is that? Because people want to find a place where they can have peace and love and joy and do wonderful and great things and be happy at the end of the day. It's not about a religion. It's not about the religion mumbo jumbo. Alright, not Sean? Shalom, not Sean? Shabbat shalom. So it's not about that mumbo jumbo pie in the sky stuff. No, it's about the now. People want to buy a mansion now, however they see their mansion. Their mansion could be a 2-bedroom, a 4-bedroom, a 8-bedroom, a 10-bedroom house. That could be whatever their mansion is for them. It could be an efficiency apartment in Pensacola, Florida, if that makes them happy. If they've moved away from the earthquake-stricken California and they got them a efficiency apartment, and if they consider that their mansion, I say so be it. I say live in your joy and your peace and your happiness and be happy. Find your joy and your peace and be happy. Full of joy and happiness. Baruch Hashem. That's what I say. Like the Grinch says, one man's trash is another man's potpourri. Baruch Hashem. Always look for the positivity in life and what you see positive for yourself. Because what you may see positive for yourself, I may not see as so positive. Our levels are different. Remember, we're different branches, and we branch out in all different directions, connected to what? The root of the tree. That's the commonality, is that we all connected to source. Understanding there are different sources out there, and somebody may not be rooted to the same tree that you have your branch on, and so be it. Whatever makes them happy at the end of the day. I'm here trying to make friends. My desire is to make friends, not enemies. I'm not trying to be the enemy to no one. I'm the ambassador of peace. I don't have the covenant of shalom like Hakohi does, but I'm the ambassador of peace and love and joy and happiness. I desire that for everyone. And you can have it now. You don't have to wait till you get to this fictitious heaven. My goodness. Look up to the heavens and meet your marks and desires now for yourself. You see? That's what you do. The God of the Hebrews. The powers of the Hebrews. He didn't say, okay, all right, I'm going to take you all to the desert. I'm going to kill you all off, and then I'm going to give you this heaven place, and you're going to live happily ever after. No, he said, no, you know what? I'm going to mark you some real estate now, and I'm going to give you prime real estate. But first of all, let me kick these people out. I'm paraphrasing. Let me kick these people out because they didn't appreciate the real estate that was given to them, and I'm going to move them out, and then I'm going to move you in. But be warned. But be warned. When you succeed these people, that be warned, learn from these people, learn what they did wrong, and observe why they were kicked out, so you don't make that same mistake. Baruch Hashem. So for all my family members, I highly recommend you involve yourself in some form of real estate. That's a part of your DNA. First of all, you have to start by having a house for yourself. Every one of you in this room, that should be a part of your affirmation, because now you're lining up with Source. He desires you to have a house, to have a home, then to make your house a home. That's a part of the covenant. Real estate, that's the part of the promise. Baruch Hashem. So, do you have to? Here's the question. How many of you have the mindset, well, I need to wait till I get into Israel to get my real estate? No! You can have your real estate now, wherever you are. You should have your real estate now. Real estate is a part of our DNA. We love land as the children of the powers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We land lovers. If you don't believe me, you need to go back and study our books. Study our history, and you'll see it. Observe it, and you'll see. You'll see. It's important to see. Just like I made the comment, I think this statement is so very important. The question, who has sight and who has sight to see? There's a big difference. And during these 6 days of labor, as you go out there and you study as students of human nature, just like you're students of this Torah, you see, Torah and people are connected. It's just connected. You see? And that's how it operates. Torah was not meant to be put under in somebody's closet. Torah is meant to be seen. Not so much heard. But Torah is meant to be seen. They saw what the Master Yahweh did. These people saw it, and then they became believers. And then the Master, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, blessed are they that don't see, benefited are they that don't see, but yet they still believe. But you see and you believe. Yeah, that's good. But even more beneficial to those who don't see yet, didn't see me do this yet, they still believe on me. Because they're going to do greater things, and they're going to see greater things. You have to have the proper eyes to see. And not only seeing with your eyes, but you have to see it with your mind. And you have to see it with self. What is self? That's the subconscious within you. See it there. The mind will follow. Mind is a wonderful tool. I was telling this to a friend of mine this week. I said, you're being controlled by your mind. And the mind, that's why you're so confused. You need to use your mind for the wonderful tool that it is. And let your foundation be with yourself. Begin to recognize yourself. It's not about no religion. It's about not no new age mumbo jumbo. This is actually, from the beginnings. Let's call it old age. This is old age from the beginnings. Primordial, as Akoin talked about in his lecture. This is primordial stuff here. And it's heavy. It's not for everybody because, they can't see it. They can't see it. They don't have the sight. They too busy being contemporary. They too busy, absorbing instead of observing. Get it? And that's where you're going to find most people today. And human nature. You're going to find them just absorbing things. And let's face it, society is built up that way for you to be absorbers. Am I correct? Just absorb everything. Why do you think they have so many cable channels? So you can absorb things. And there's nothing wrong with absorbing things, right? But you have to, listen, I love watching documentaries on billionaires. And I love watching billionaires and millionaires just talk. And I love being around billionaires and millionaires. I love that. Because I'm noting just like that tree. They all have different branches and they went different directions. But the root source that's the commonality that they all have. But I love hearing how they branched out in different ways and why they did it and the obstacles that they faced, yet they overcame them. And they saw the obstacle not as an obstacle, but as another opportunity, as experience to help them and fuel them to meet their marks, which they did and they still are, because they even have bigger imaginations. Bigger wants, not at the by and by and all that mumbo jumbo. They have those things now. They want them right now. So I love watching those things. So yes, I absorb that type of those facts about billionaires and how they got there. I love listening to how they talk. I love being around them, getting inside their thought process. And Cohen gave you He gave us some great instruction on what these billionaires, what's going on behind the scenes and what are they actually doing. They're meditating, right? Baruch Hashem. And some of the things are what they're saying. And let's face it, they're getting it. Let's just say they're still not 100% right, yet it has truly been effective for them and powerful for them, right? Because I can guarantee you, a majority of them are saying Om. And not, but they're saying, oh, but guess what? It's effective for them, right? Isn't it? Baruch Hashem. Just like it was effective for the master to come to me in that closet. When I'm there, shabba doing kubadoo, shubadoo. Yet it was still effective for me. As Nakshan walks around the house, Baruch Hashem. It was still effective for me. Because the master heard me. DM Chochmah heard me. He gave me words of wisdom that changed my life. That changed my life. Baruch Hashem. That changed my life. So these are the things that we have to understand. It's very, very important that we understand that, Mishpachah. Very, very important. And that we don't lose track. And just like Musa was telling our forefathers, we must continue not to be entrapped. Don't be entrapped by them. Take heed to ourselves. We must take heed to ourselves. Just like in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30. Take heed to ourselves. That we're not entrapped. And we follow, and we begin to follow after their ways. We must guard ourselves against that. Utilize the tools that we have. Don't be enamored by everything that's shiny on YouTube. And I'm not knocking YouTube. YouTube has its place. I learned a lot of great information, a lot of great things. YouTube has helped me make a lot of money as well. There's a lot of great teachers on YouTube that can help you and guide you. And a lot of these, guess what? A lot of these millionaires, billionaires, they use YouTube. And you can sit there. Who has gained some great insight from YouTube? Anybody in this room? Put up a capital Y. If you gained some insight from YouTube, I'm pretty sure you have. Yet at the same time, there's a lot of knuckleheads on there. And this is, as students of humanity, you all should understand this. This is the cycle and of let's just, not the cycle, let's just, as we talk about the universes and the perfect law, this is what you have to have. You have to have the good with the bad. That's that balance that you have to have. YouTube can be a great assistant, but at the same time, it can be a facilitator of disaster if you allow it. You can't blame YouTube. Many times we put the blame on many different, we point the finger at many different systems that are out there. But at the end of the day, it's our system that's to blame if things go wrong, and it's our system to blame if things go right. Baruch Hashem. Give credit where credit is due. And you know where it starts? It starts with ourselves. That's where it starts. So be mindful. Because, if you're listening to this, via YouTube and you're catching, you're like, well, man, these guys, this Kohen is talking about all this mumbo jumbo and he's oohing and ahhing, but I don't agree with it. Well, if you don't agree with it, then that's fine. I totally respect that. First he started this way and that, blah, blah, now he's here. That's called evolution. That's called growth. And as I did inform you guys, when our Kohen leaves North America, there's always great insight that we gain in his trips. There's always more revelation that's opened up to us that can be revealed to us at the same time to the family. And for some family members, they may not like it, whilst others will. Moshe is warning the children of Israel. At the same time, he's affirming what has already been working for the children of Israel or the Hebrews at this time. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 13. We'll read verses 3 and 4 in the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. You shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh your power is testing you to know whether you love Yahweh your power with all of your heart and with all of your soul. As we heard in the last parsha, where it talked about the Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Ahad, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, that's fine and dandy to say the Shema and be able to repeat the Shema, but at the end of the day, if you pulled away with the testings that are out there on YouTube or listening to these cable channels, or if you pulled away by those dreamer of dreams, if you pulled away from your first love, if you pulled away from the powers of Israel, and like Moses goes on to admonish the Hebrews there in Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 4, you shall keep the halacha, the commandments of Yahweh your power, and fear him and guard his commandments and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and cling to him. But yet we find a lot of ecstatic cling. People have come and gone through here like no man's business, and that's okay. I get that. I understand this way of living, this way of life is not for everybody. Some folks see it as kooky and some others see it as spooky. And I say, so be it. Then go back to, your religion and be happy. If that makes you happy at the end of the day. Go back to your non-belief in nothing if that makes you happy at the end of the day. But I'll tell you this, just like the Master said, for us it is a mystery. And as you all know, these mysteries are being revealed, right? These mysteries are being opened up to us. It is a mystery. It's not cut and dry. Religion gives you a cookie cutter, cut and dry, do this, blah, 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 and just keep doing it. And every year you do this and blah, blah, blah. But do you see the evolution of the mysteries of our way of living? Do you see it being unfolded? It's happening before your very eyes right here in 2020, August 15, 2020. It's happening. HaKohen continues to open up and reveal to us these mysteries. He'll tell you, my goodness, there's no other person on the face of this planet that's going to tell you what I'm about to tell you, and that'll pull these things right out of our books, right out of Bereshit, the book of beginnings. They'll just give you the rope, cookie cutter, mumbo jumbo. That's what you're going to get in Judaism. I wasn't born for religion, and religion wasn't born for me. I'm telling you. I'm going to say that again. I was not born for religion, and religion was not born for me. I was born to walk a way of life, as my son is walking around the house now. Baruch Hashem, I tell you. And I see him walking, and I'm like, yes, yes. I'm going to teach you how to walk. I was born to walk a way of life, a lifestyle, not a religion, not cookie cutter. But cookie cutter is quite popular in today's society. And I've come out of cookie cutter. I've been there, done that. And a lot of you can say the same thing. You've been in cookie cutter models, and you understand it's just rote. You're just a robot. It's just, okay, do this, and do the same thing. And then next Sunday church, do the same thing. Next Wednesday church, do the same thing, and the same thing, and the same thing, and the same thing. Whilst your whole life on the face of this earth is just like the sands of an hourglass. So are the days of our life. And it's just going away. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. But now I realize I can live forever. And I'm living forever now. How many of you agree with that statement? I am living forever now. Luxury Class wrote it down. Those forever ways. The ancient paths. If you translate that, Luxury Class, it actually means the forever ways. Because ancient, again, in some people's terminology, they'll think, in their mindset, they'll think, okay, they'll think ancient means old. But God forbid we ever call our forever ways old, correct? But in some people's mindset, because they see ancient as old, they'll equate, they equate it to old. And I like watching. How many of you like watching like archaeology shows? I love watching that stuff, man. We digging up dinosaur bones here in Texas. I'm telling you, here in San Antonio, we digging up ancient dinosaur bones. And I like watching archaeologists talk about past civilizations. How many of you like what? Man, I love listening to that stuff, and I love watching it. And the archaeologists, they'll say, yeah, well, in the way that these people could think, they made this symbol because that symbol to them was like flying, for instance. You ever notice, like in every civilization, they always have these pictorial graphics or these picture things of people with wings or animals with wings, because this is them associating in their mindset with people that could fly, with flying things. Even in our way of living, in our history, Israel is considered as a flying object as well, aren't we? Are we considered as eagles? Eagles is a big part of our, and if you know anything about eagles are the highest flying bird that can fly. No bird can fly higher than an eagle. What is that telling you? Man, isn't that something? So we serve the most highest. Do you get it? That's why we say the most high. Moses went into Pharaoh because, again, the Egyptians, in their pictorial graphic, and archaeologists have said the same thing, is that in the Egyptians talk about, flying things. They have it in their on the side of their pyramids and stuff, of like flying things, and they have their particular deity that had wings as well. But when Moses went in talking to Pharaoh, they said, well, who do you represent? He said, I represent the kingdom of the Most High. Baruch Hashem. As high as you can get, the Most High. Yeah, you may have a high, you may have a high power, but I represent the kingdom of the Most High. Can you get higher than Most High? No, you can't. You cannot get higher than the Most High. But of course, there are, lesser highs. And when Moses went in to deal with Pharaoh and his magicians, we saw who came out the winner and who came out on top. The kingdom of the Most High. Baruch Hashem. I want you always to remember that. You and I, Mishpachah, we're connected to that root. So never see yourself as lesser. Never lessen yourself, because you're in service to the kingdom of the Most High here on this earth. And that's where the kingdom is established, will be established, and will always be established. Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks for that. So we must understand that. You fly high. You don't fly low. You fly high. And yet, that eagle has the sight that can see what's going down on the face of this earth as he goes to try to snag up something to eat. He has great sight as well. Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks always. And this is why I really have an affinity for studying past civilizations, because they leave clues to where we are today and to what was going on during that time. And just like the Master said, it truly is a mystery. It truly is a mystery. It's a mystery for a lot of folks. But when these things start to be revealed and uncovered, and you get all these different opinions and these thoughts on these things, and you begin to relive these civilizations that were out there. And there's this one I was watching where they actually found this cave where they had trapped all of these tall people. There was this race of tall people. And and what they did is that they entrapped them in this cave, and they burned them in this cave, and they blocked the cave up where they found this cave, and they began unearthing this cave, and they began to find these big old bones that they won't put on display in the local museum there, but they have them in the back cabinets of the museum. And the man doing this thing, he's like, well, I don't know why they would want to put these kind of artifacts out there in the museum so everyone else can see them. So, you know, in our history, it does talk about the giants. There were giants in the land. And there's just an affirmation to that. That's just confirmation to that very point. Is that, yes, there were giant people. And they equate these people to being about, 12 to 16 foot tall people. These were giant people. But again, where are they today? Do we see giant people around here today? No. We don't see that. Yeah, you see your basketball stars. 7 foot is almost like a miracle. You know what I mean? I think Yao Ming, he was what, 7'8"? He was pretty tall. He is pretty tall, Yao Ming. So, you have to look at these things, look at these factors, and, begin, see it as a mystery, but don't be afraid of it. It's just the mystery just being revealed to us, family. Don't be discouraged. Be of good cheer. And begin to observe, like Moses was saying, like Moshe, and begin to apply. Observe to do. And then this is when you'll see that life-changing, that rebirth, because that's just what happens, like the Master Yeshua talked about. The Master Yeshua, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, if you want to see the kingdom of heaven, you have to be born again. And if you're not born again, you won't see the kingdom of heavens, the kingdom of Elohim. You can't see it because first that rebirth has to happen, like it is happening within us. That rebirth, the rebirth of how you think, the rebirthing, coming out of mind control and going into conscious and subconscious and becoming conscious. Instead of unconscious, just walking around like zombies. Like still majority of the world is doing. So grateful to have the upper hand. So grateful to be under the umbrella, under the covering of the Most High. This is real life stuff, Mishpah. There's no pie in the sky, mumbo jumbo. And you'll see the successful people who get what they want in life, whatever it may be, money, relationship, fame, fortune, happiness, peace. They're connected to Source in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Or they've taken some of the principles and applied them, and they still work. Wow, what is that telling you? So it's vital and it's important that we take heed, and that when we ask ourselves this question, who has sight and who has sight to see, we realize that that's a big gulf. There's a big gap between those two questions. And as you go about your daily, give thanks and show gratitude that you actually see. Because how many of you in this room will agree with me? At one time, you were as blind as a bat. Put up a capital B. And you were just as blind. And Rabbi Kefa was talking about cookie cutter. I invented the cookie cutter. I was doing the cookie cutter to the T. And you just realized that it just didn't work for you. It just did not work for you. You were just as blind as a bat. You were just so blind. You can't say you were hoodwinked and bamboozled, led astray. That's just the condition that you were just brought up with. You didn't know any better. So the best word we can give that is just that you were ignorant. You and I were just ignorant. We did not know. And there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. Because out of ignorance, you can come into what? Not arrogance. But you can come into what? You can come into knowing. You can come into sight. You can come into seeing. Ignorance. I mean, I was just as blind as a bat. But what I thought I was doing within inside of me was just as, just as right as can be. Can't get no righter. I thought I was doing what was right. Because that's what my mind was telling me. But my subconscious was telling me this. That voice inside of you say, man. Yeah. How many of you had this same thing with your subconscious? Your subconscious tell you like, man, there's got to be more to this life than this. And maybe you said it in a different way, but I'm paraphrasing it. It's like, man, there has just got to be more to this life than what I'm doing right now. There's got to be more purpose for me. I've been put on this earth for a purpose, and it's got to be more than what I'm doing now. This mumbo jumbo. There's just got to be more. Man. I kept telling myself, man. But myself kept saying, well, let's just hang in there a little bit longer. Let's give it a little. Then finally, my mind couldn't play them tricks on me. I gave up on that stuff. I said, man, this is it. Sunday is yard day. No more of this Sunday church for me. I can't. This foolishness. Then the definition of insanity came to my mind. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? I'm not insane, by the way. I said, man, there's just got to be more. And I know there's more. So let me go search out for this more. I know it's not Sunday church. Appreciate my stay in the Catholic religion and the new denomination of the living, the Christian. Appreciate my stay there, because now I have a higher appreciation and show greater gratitude for where I am today that I can see. Because I know how it is to be blind. So those of you who were blind, I know you know exactly where I'm coming from. So appreciate being blind, because now that you see, you have a higher gratitude, higher respect, right? So when you go through hell, you just keep walking. Why? Because when you get to your paradise, you get to your heaven, you'll be more grateful. You have a higher gratitude. And I look at some of these millionaires and billionaires. Listen, some of them started, as immigrants. Some of them started, as children, family had governmental assistance with food stamps. And now look at them. Because they didn't stay where they are, but they went to where they wanted to be. So those people, and I know a lot of them that are on government assistance and all this, hey, have a respect for you. I don't knock that. Just don't stay there. Use it as a stepping stool to get where you want to go. So that instead of you getting assistance from the government, you can assist the government in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Right? Giving great service to the community, to your neighborhood, to your world. But at first, it starts with your house. It starts in your home. It starts with you making that house a home. A home of peace, a home of love, a home of joy, a home of gladness, a home of gratitude, a home of humility, Baruch Hashem, a powerful home that's plugged into that city and that's upholding that city, keeping that city upright where you live, that city, that town, that state. You do that. I do that, Baruch Hashem. We have an effect and an affect on our city and the people that are around us. Thus, light to the world. Because they see it. It's not what I say. Because I don't say too much unless you talk to me. You might think, man, Rabbi Kefa is probably always talking. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm of the silent type as well. You talk to me, I'm going to talk to you back. Because other than that, I like to be silent. Because like I Cohen talked about, man, I'm seeing that, you know, the borders of that new home. I'm putting up the, you know, the furnishings in that new home. I'm driving the new cars. I'm traveling to these places where I'm going. You see what I'm saying? I'm already there. I see it. I'm in it. And you can do all that when you get inside your subconscious and you begin to visualize these things. Visualization is so important. You got to see it. You know how they have this saying, and it's true. You really have to see it, Mishpahah, to believe it. Can you believe it without seeing it? Think about that for a minute. You really have to see, well, how do I see it today, Rabbi? You visualize it. Why do you think Akoin is teaching us about visualization? Because then you see it. And then you can have a belief. It can be done. I see millionaires and billionaires, so I can believe I can be a millionaire and a billionaire. I believe that. I believe it. I mean, it's that. But again, when you're blind, you can't see. You don't have the sight to see. But when you have sight, the world, you really have dominion over this world then. You really do. Because whatever you charge, whatever you affirm, it already is affirmed in the heavens. Powers has already affirmed it. If you affirm it, I am that I am. That's real. When you can see that phrase for what it really means, that's powerful. That is powers. Baruch Hashem. And so are you. So then, no, we're going to wrap it up for the Shabbat. We're going to wrap it up. I tell you what a great period that we're living in, right? And I would really encourage you all, you know, during this Corona mumbo jumbo, watch what you absorb, okay? Be careful what you're absorbing. And I want you all to look for opportunities to be successful, family, to be prosperous in this time, in this period that we're in right now. Because I'm telling you, there are so many opportunities. It's like crazy. And I tell you what, as a man, I like to make easy money. I like to make money the easy way. I don't like to make money hard. I like to make money easy way. And I like for my money to make money for me. But when I heard this factoid about the association with folks, with people, and with the markets, there's very few people that are associated with the stock market. I was surprised. For whatever rhyme or reason. But not many people are associated with the markets. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Because that is one of the great ways where you can just accumulate wealth is through the markets. But not many people are attached or associated with. Not many people don't know about it. Just don't know. Remember we talked about ignorance? They just don't know. Same way we look at, I'm not just dealing with money. I love money, money love me. Not just, but if you don't love money and money's not what all your, maybe it's relationship. Many people haven't traveled outside the United States of America. So they don't know about, you know, these other great cultures out there that have great, loving, and loyal wives and husbands that take care of your needs. Same way in relationships, same thing. Ignorance is prevalent in humanity because people just don't know. And I say that in a happy way. Is that there's the world, humanity is ripe with opportunity for you to give guidance and direction, for you to be an example of how folks can live life. Not how they should live their life, but how they can live. You can live your life however you want to live it. Not how somebody told you have to live your life. It's not true. That's totally not true. When folks can begin to harness the power that within themselves and observe that they have everything that they need within themselves, but they need to be told this. Maybe they need to be mentored. Maybe they need to see it. That's where you and I come in, where folks can see it. See it, then they'll believe. Seeing it is so important. You got to be able to see it. This is why your visualization is so important. You see it for yourself, then you'll believe. Regardless of what people are telling you around you, regardless of how you see your circumstances right now, you could see your circumstances in another way. I would encourage you all to make your circumstances greater, because you serve the Most High. Powers of the Most High. You're part of a lineage. You're part of a primordial lineage that is just like second to nobody. And I say that in all humility. Second to nobody, to no one. No other powers on the face of this earth can match the powers of Israel, the powers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Can't touch it. Cannot touch it. That's who you're rooted with. In your time of discouragement, I want to be your biggest cheerleader and tell you who you're rooted to. And don't try to cut your branches off and go plant yourself somewhere else, because it won't be to your benefit. Moses was telling the Hebrews the same thing. And we're in these nations now too. We're not in Israel. We're outside of Israel. Just like the Hebrews were outside of Israel. They weren't in the land yet. And look what Moses is telling them. Moshe, the greatest of all. Bigger than the goat. Bigger than the greatest of all time. And these same words resonate with us today. As we invoke Moshe through the readings of this Torah, through the doings and the observation of this Torah, in 2020, these words are just as real and just as powerful as well, and can be utilized for all of you and however you want to use them. However you see fit. Maybe it's not wealth. Maybe it's health. Maybe it's relationship. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're the head, not the tail of it. You see yourself that way, and you will be it. Build your belief system up. Because other people are going to tear you down. You get that. 6 days of labor, people trying to tear you down. Build yourself up on the foundation of powers of Israel, and they cannot touch you after that. It's done and dusted. The rest is commentary, as they say. So let's go out there and do it, family. Let's continue to do it. It's not like we're not doing it. Let's continue to do it. And go from strength to strength. You meet one goal, you meet one mark, set up the next one. I'm closing with this statement right here that I heard. I read this statement. I thought it was a really, really good statement. This statement was, a little bit and a little bit equals a lot. A little bit and a little bit equals a lot. A little bit. Sometimes we look for the big and we forget the small steps that it took to get there. Just the little steps, little bit by little bit. This will give you encouragement and reinforce the fact that, time doesn't matter. Sometimes you try to go in, Eddie's, and you take that trade and you put a one lot on it when you should only put like a 0.5 or a 0.1 on it. Mini lot. You know what I mean? So it's just a little bit by little bit. Little bit by little bit will equal a lot. It will equal a lot. But you just take it bit by bit. Take those little steps that's taking you. See, sometimes we miss the bigger mark and we get, we blow our count or something like that. And then we say, man, if I'd have just took those little steps. Or we say, man, I just give up. I just give up. I'm going to throw in the towel. No, you just have to take those little steps and you'll meet your mark. You'll meet your mark. Appreciate going through those little steps. And before you know it, you'll be walking. Because a little bit plus a little bit equals a lot. So keep getting that little bit. Little bit. Bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. And before you know it, you have a lot. Celebrate the bits and the pieces. And you'll have the whole Baruch Hashem. A lot of times we don't take time to acknowledge our successes, yet we focus on our weaknesses. Acknowledge your successes, because the success will make you stronger. It's like water in a plant. Acknowledge it and make the plant grow stronger. But when you're just dealing with the failures, then you not watering the plant. And what happens to the plant? It ends up dying. Celebrate your successes this day, Mishpahah. On that note, we'll wrap it up. My desire is that all of you have a great 6 days of labor ahead. Enjoy your Shabbat. And enjoy the process of meeting your marks. That's all a part of it as well. That's enjoyable. The experience of it, the whole nine. You can look back and you can tell your children and your children's children, or you can even write a book about it one day and say, well, you know what? I took these steps. Some of these steps I fell down on, but I got back up and I kept taking these steps. Then I met my mark. Then I said, you know what? Let's make another mark. That was such an enjoyment. Let's do it again. But this is my next mark. Such is life. Leave a legacy for others to follow. The ancients, all these ancient tribes and these ancient cultures, they left a legacy for us to follow. And now we're digging that up. I find that very interesting. Dig up all these ancient societies, these ancient cultures. What did they leave behind for the next civilization? What are you going to leave behind for the next civilization? So on that note, we'll wrap it up. I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. We're turning it back over to HaKohim. We're going to keep it moving, Mishpahah. We're a family, and that's what we do. We just keep it moving. Keep it moving in the direction where you want it to go. And quit passing the blame game. Look within yourself, make the necessary changes, and then just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Little bit by little bit. Before you know it, you're going to have a lot. Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom. Over you, HaKohim. We're going to wrap it up over here.
For that, Rabbi Kefa, I'm going to wrap it up over here as well. And we'll follow this up next week. So practice what you learn, practice diligently. You will reap the benefits and rewards out of that. Remember what I said. Even children with ADHD will benefit from this. If you are dealing with children like that, take this information to them so that they may benefit out of it as well. So until next week, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom.